victory, UNC. Our hearts will live with thee, with thee. Fight, 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 the blue and white are rolling to victory. Tar heels on head to steal the thunder from the sky, and take our stand as every man does right. Blue and white will give the Tar Heels a hand and cheer them on to do or die. Yeah, all of us are for UNC, and you can bet you we're proud to be the Tar Heels on hand. Tar Heels on hand to steal the thunder from the sky and take our stand as every man does right. Blue and white will give the Tar Heels a hand and cheer them on to do or die. Yeah, all of us are for UNC, and you can bet you we're proud to be the Tar Heels on hand. Hark the sound of Tar Heel voices, ringing clear and true, singing Carolina's praises, shouting and see you. Hail to the brightest star of all, clear its radiant shine. From Carolina, priceless gem, receive all praises thine. Beneath the oaks, the sun's true-hearted homage pay to thee. Time-worn walls give back their echo, hail to UNC. Hail to the brightest star of all, clear its radiant shine. From Carolina, priceless gem, receive all praises thine.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Downtown Chapel Hill, Then, Now, and Always, presented by the UNC General Alumni Association. This is the first in a series of 6 events that we hope will help you relive some of your favorite memories from downtown, as well as encourage your support of some downtown businesses at a time where they need it the most. Each event will focus on a different area of businesses downtown. And tonight we will be focusing on our shops in downtown Chapel Hill. A few notes just before we get started. Our scope when we say downtown Chapel Hill, we typically think of where we interact most with Chapel Hill as students. So tonight we're thinking Franklin Street and Rosemary Streets from Merritt Mill Road to Henderson Street. We scoured the archives looking for as many pictures of current and past businesses that you might remember. And if we don't have a picture of it tonight, we still want you to share. We're going to bring them up as you bring them up. But if you start talking about one and we don't bring up the picture, keep on going. It just meant that we weren't able to find a picture of it digitally in a world where we can't scour the library as well. So we want tonight to be a conversation. We do have a host and some guests as well, but we want you to feel comfortable sharing your stories and asking your questions about downtown Chapel Hill of our business owners that are on the call. But we meet everyone as they came in, just to cut down on background noise. And so if you want to share a memory or what have you, you can put it in the chat, and then we will go through and call on you to unmute yourself and share it, and then we ask that you remute yourself when you're done, just to make sure we're not talking over each other. Also, one more thing, if I could ask everyone, if you'd like to go up to the top right hand of your picture, the square with you on it, and hit the 3 yellow or 3 white dots and hit rename and change your name to your first and last name, but also the year that you graduated from Carolina, if you are an alum, so that when you're sharing your story, we know the era of downtown Chapel Hill that you're talking about. I also want to thank the Downtown Chapel Hill Partnership. They've been an awesome collaborator on this event with us. And it's their Experience Downtown Chapel Hill initiative that 100% of your $5 registration fee is going to support. That initiative is perfect for the time. It's aimed to support businesses downtown during COVID-19 and make it possible for customers to return safely downtown whenever they're able to do so. I also want to thank all of our GA members on the call tonight. You all make events like this and everything we do throughout the year possible. And for that, we'd like to send you a little thank you. So to do that and tell you how you can do that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Katie Thor.
Hi, thanks, Joe. And yes, thank you all for coming to this event as we support our favorite street. For our GA members, to check in to this event tonight to receive your gift, download and log into the UNC Alumni app. To do this, visit your smartphone's app store, search UNC Alumni. Once it's downloaded, you can log in with the email address that you receive GAA emails to. So if you've already downloaded and logged in, you'll see on your app, there's 3 lines at the bottom left-hand corner. You can click on that, and a sidebar will appear. At the top, the second line says check in. Click on that line. Our event will pop up. Click on our event. Next, we'll click on check in, and you'll enter a 5-digit code. This code is 68965. Again, for our GA members who have downloaded and logged into the app, we're doing a check-in so you can receive a 8x10 print of the Greetings from Chapel Hill postcard. To check in, go to the sidebar of the app, click check-in, click on our event, and enter in the code 68965. If you're having any problems with this or are just now getting to download, I will be around at the end of the event and happy to help, and can also be contacted tomorrow. Thank you all and hope you enjoy the night.
Thank you very much, Katie. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our host for the evening, Missy Julian-Fox. And when I say that Missy grew up on Franklin Street, it's not. She really did. Her parents opened a clothing store on Franklin Street in 1942. She ran the store for many years in the 90s and 2000s. She also ran the UNC Visitor Center for a decade, right at the intersection of Town and Gown in Chapel Hill. She served on the Chapel Hill Historical Society. She's even written 3 children's books, which focus on much of it focuses on Chapel Hill. So when we were thinking of who would be the best person to talk about businesses downtown and history of Chapel Hill, I don't think we could find a better person. So how are you doing tonight, Missy?
I'm great. I'm really happy to be with everyone tonight.
Thank you. Good to have you here.
Are you ready for me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because I want to thank you, Joe, for masterminding this wondrous evening, and for the General Alumni Association, certainly for bringing us all together tonight. It was unbelievable to me this morning that when I opened my email, I got my Alumni Review magazine online, and there is a really good article with some fantastic pictures of downtown Chapel Hill now. And I know many of you don't get to live here in town all the time, and certainly during the pandemic may not have been back. So those pictures are very telling the way things are. And so I feel very grateful that our business and my colleagues, that we are all standing tall now. really trying hard, working harder than we've ever worked before, and determined to stand tall, my favorite term now, until all our street and our shops are really full, and things are really rolling again. So to all the people that have come tonight, thank you, because you get it, and we're really grateful for your support in the past, and certainly tonight, and then in the future, and are glad we're all here together tonight. I actually have a host of history around me. I have Charles House from University Florist that's here, Julie Jennings from Uniquities, Stephen Judge from SchoolKids Records, and they will all be speaking when I'm finished. And there's a whole nother group of you out there. There's some really good friends that I have actually been to school with here at Carolina, and others that I grew up with. Cheryl Jernigan Wicker is here. Her family had Thell's Bakery, and then she had her own shop, Toots and Magoo, if you remember that. Frances Spranzy Harper, her dad ran Huggins Hardware, and we went to high school together. I had seen that Diane Shaw was signed up, but I didn't get to see her on the screen yet. But her family had College Cafe, among other things. Fran Marley Feinberg, her family had the famous Porthole restaurant. And I did see that my dear friend Annis Arthur is with us tonight. And Annis's dad was Billy Arthur, the Carolina head cheerleader in, I think it was 31, she can tell us for sure. But he was a writer, a comedian, and for me, her mom and dad ran this legendary toy shop, which was just spectacular. So there's lots of history and stories around us already. And what I wanted to do first is I wanted to share just a little bit of historical info. So I hope it will jog memories and some of the stories that you want to tell. The truth is, we call downtown home. Whether people have lived here for a few years in school or whether it's been for a lifetime, this feels like home. It is where we eat, play, shop, and celebrate. And there're just so many memories. So I want to remind you to put your questions in chat or jot them down on your own so you won't forget, because we want to hear. So let's start. So our beloved Franklin Street, of course, this is from the 1890s, and we're looking west. If you were looking where the trees, up to the trees, the McCorkle Place is on your left. The post office would be on your right. So we, some things have really changed and some things have stayed the same. Next one. Some of us remember and know that Chapel Hill has a history of being a very cool town. Fashionable, fashion conscious. There was Macaulay's store, you see, with their elegant stock of clothing and hats. And then on the other side is Hoot Patterson. He had his own general store from the late 1900s. And when I was growing up here in the 50s, there were 7 men's stores in that 100 block from the post office to the corner of Columbia. And all of that started way before Julian's got here. Next one. So we believe that downtown has always been the place to gather. The picture, 1911, it was an auction downtown. The crowds came. The 1930 is a football Saturday looks almost like now. 1942, when the Navy pre-flight training school came here and the cadets ran through their paces through Franklin Street. And 1950, the Beat Duke Parade, which all those parades and making floats have been legendary. The next one, this actually surprised me. Downtown has always been a transportation hub. I never thought of it like that. But the Royal Cafe in 1911 was when Tank Hunter ran the jitney service, and you could go from Chapel Hill to Durham, but that was the pickup spot. And then fast forward, I know some of us remember Varley's, another one of our men's stores downtown, which was the original site of SchoolKids Records. Stephen, so if you haven't seen the picture, now it's an ATM center for the Bank of America, but even today, this is where you catch the bus, and even sometimes more importantly, where you get the Tar Heel Express to the Dean Dome. The next one. So if you remember this, we have gone from horse and wagons to trolleys, to jitneys, to trolleys, and now to this award-winning free bus service that goes all over town. And that was really started by Howard Lee. So the next one, in the midst of all this transportation hub, parking has always been a problem. That one thing does not seem to change. This is a postcard that the Historical Society did. Next one. So we've always come downtown to celebrate. I would like to know if you guys can see, they're sort of hidden on my screen. Raise your hand if you dressed up as a banana for Halloween on Franklin Street. There have been some wild and wonderful costumes. And of course, this is one of our national championships, which is always a real downtown kind of thing. The next one, please. And also, we have a long, long history of coming downtown to champion our beliefs. The next one, please. In my growing up, and in my exploration now, I have realized that these were the only two Black-owned businesses that I knew growing up. The Black Business District, Midway, is in the area around North Graham Street. You'll see if you didn't know. Mama Dip opened her restaurant in 1976, which has changed happily the landscape. And I found an article in a June Daily Tar Heel, and it listed, I think, 8 Black entrepreneurs who are running businesses downtown. So it's changing, not enough, but it's changing. And I really encourage you to learn more about our local Chapel Hill African-American history and in your own communities, because we all have learned how important it is for us to really build on that information and make the world the way it should be. So yeah, so we've always come downtown for entertainment. This, as you can see, 1909. And interestingly, the Pickwick, when it opened in 1909, was the silent movies. And so students' favorite activity was waiting for the music to pause. And every time it did, they would throw peanuts at, I think it was Miss Hazel that was the organist playing music during the silent movies. The next one. The Varsity Theater, even though it says Carolina in 1942, it did change. It's in the site of the Varsity Theater, just the same. And I wanted many of you that don't live here to see that we've actually named that connecting alley Varsity Alley now. But this movie theater has been showing movies for 93 years. So downtown is certainly part of the landscape. So the next one, please. So these are small pictures, but the point is they were all taken in 1977. The real point is that the street changes. Businesses and our friends in this town come and go. You can see Foister's, Rose's, the dime store, Fell's Bakery that was in the same building with University Florist, Ledbetter Pickard, the Fireside, the Old Waffle Shop, Wentworth and Sloan, Jewelers, Fowler's with Big Bertha, if some of you remember that, and the Little Shop, that was a great dress store right next to where Julian's used to be. There was Robbins department store. We had Belt Leggett Horton, a department store downtown. And the one that I couldn't find a good picture of was the Intimate Bookshop, which is near and dear to many of us, which is a great segue to the next slide, because although we may still shed a tear about the Intimate not being here, we now have Flyleaf, an independent bookstore owned and operated by a Chapel Hillian, and it has a great feel and they're very connected to the community. So downtown remains near and dear to so many of us, with these outstanding businesses and new ones coming all the time. There's just new things to love. And I put in Ackland and the planetarium because I don't think there's another downtown in America that has both of those kinds of things in their downtown. It's amazing. So the next slide. So my daughter was telling me about the newest social media phenomenon, which is how it started versus where it's going or how it's going. And so just take a minute to look at this map. Where the pink circle is, that's the 100 block of Franklin Street. That's all that we used to have. And so look how we have expanded, and there are just so many more opportunities, which we think is just wonderful. And then the last slide. So our store, Julian's, we've been on Franklin Street now for 78 years. And our store, like all the businesses, we continue to evolve, adapt, and treasure the space that we take up on the street. I think every business would say that. And I just wanted to end with these two things that I was thinking about when I was getting ready to come tonight. And number one, my dad passed away in 1993, and I stepped in with, and my husband soon joined me to run the store. My brother Alex and I, who says hi to everyone and couldn't be here, but we decided that our measure of success without Dad would be how often we heard people say, "I'll meet you at Julian's after the game," just the way that we had grown up. And number two, fashion changes. Dad bought new clothing for the store every single season. the point is the merchandise inside the stores change. That's something to keep in mind, because you have to ask yourself, what doesn't change and what keeps people coming back? And my feeling, my revelation is that it's always the experience. It's the quest for something unique and special, and for that moment. It's how you're treated. It's how you feel in that shop. It's the relationships and the partnerships. And we have always felt, and I know my colleagues agree with me, that every store is in a partnership with the customers. You're trying to make the match. And it's always, always about the people. So the fact that the people downtown, the ones that come to shop, the ones that are opening the door, holding the door open, that's what makes the experience. And I think that as alums and people that love Franklin Street, we always leave just a little bit of our heart right here. And that is magical. It's truly magical. And so we get to be together tonight to share our hearts. What makes it wonderful, what keeps it in your heart, where you have left your heart. We would love to hear your stories. And so I think we'll start with Charles at University Florist, and and then, I'm sorry, I meant to do ladies first. Sorry, Julie. Then we'll go to Julie and Stephen, and then we'll open it up. Does that sound good?
Sounds great. Thank you, Missy.
I'm Charles. If you haven't seen me before.
So Charles.
Now I've got my Corona beard on and everything. So this is my store here, and has been there a good long time. And I'm glad Cheryl is here tonight too, because it's fun to reminisce with Thell's Bakery, since we were in the same building there for such a long time. Anyway, I grew up with Missy. I'm so much older than she is. Yes, exactly. So it's been an interesting journey, Franklin Street, as well as just living in Chapel Hill for as long as we have. One of the things that always was so important to me was every fall. It would be very quiet pretty much during the summertime, but when the fall came about, and prior to the first day of class, there was an energy that built every single fall, and it was magical. It was something that you just, if you could put in a bottle and save it for a while, that'd be great. But as you know, unfortunately, this year it's not been that way. But still, it will come back again. I'm very, very confident that will happen. I bought the business in 1980, having worked there for 7 years with the previous owners, James and Francis Davis. Some of you, shall we say, more mature alums may remember them. But at any rate, I bought it in 1980. I've been parcel and part of this organization for over 50 years now, when I count the time when I was in school that I worked there. That being said, the greatest thing that I have fun seeing right now is my son, who is now taking on the responsibility of the store and putting his image on it. It is just incredible to see that. And it's fun. It is really, really fun. Now I go in and help. I'm sort of semi-retired, but I still have my finger on the pulse of what's going on. But I go in and I deliver for him, and I do some, things like that, which is kind of keeps me on Franklin Street. Not as much as I used to be, but it's walking up and down the street and seeing people, and greeting people, and stepping into stores that you where you have friends in the business. It's very, very special. It's one of the things that is the most fun for me is doing the weddings of young ladies whose mother's wedding we did some 25 or 30 years before. And we do that every once in a while. So that is a testament to our longevity. And it's a great place to have a family and to be here. So it's I think that's about all I've got to say right now. But it's a great place. It's a great place.
Julie, are you there?
Sure. Hi, I'm Julie Jennings. I own Uniquities. I opened my store in downtown Chapel Hill as our first Uniquities location in 1992. I remember Charles from being on the downtown partnership or commission or whatever. So it's almost 29 years for me. But I've always been on West Franklin Street, so it's probably a little bit different of an experience. Also, I didn't go to UNC, sorry. And, so I kind of had to forge my own way, make my own friendships with customers, living here, having kids go to school here. I think kind of more in the forefront of my mind is really like, if I have, people here that are listening to this call, like, it would be really great for people to come down to Chapel Hill, come visit the stores and the restaurants. I have other locations. I have 2 stores in Charlotte and 2 stores in Raleigh. My other store in Raleigh has been there for over 25 years, but it just seems as a university town that Chapel Hill has been hurt a lot more than a lot of the bigger places. And I don't think if people, have been downtown, they really understand the depth of how hard it is for most businesses downtown. So if there's any way that, like for us, we have an e-commerce site now, uniquities.com, please visit us there. It's just super important. I think that, not to be the Debbie Downer tonight, but I do think that there's going to be a lot of restaurants that are going to close. I told my husband, who owns Elaine's on Franklin, he's been on Franklin Street right next door to me. You can maybe see it over there a little bit. He's been here 20 years. And he wanted me to tell you he's open, and they have 2 new heaters outside. So you can go eat and I guess because of all the hot weather, they still have the, crab. So anyway, come visit whoever whatever businesses that you love downtown, because I think now more than ever. As far as like fun, like reminiscing, I think when I first moved here in the early 90s, I remember old John from next door at the Colonial Drugstore. And I was like, it was actually kind of awesome to be there because all the hungover students would come every like Sunday morning. I was like, what are they going to get? And someone's like, you don't know what a Big O is? And I was like, I don't know what a Big O is. So anyway, that's how I struck up my friendship with John. And he had that cutting board. I wish when they closed, I got it, but it had like the huge like divot in the middle because he chopped up so many oranges and limes. But all those hungover students became our customers. And, now almost 30 years later, I'm seeing my earliest customers, like, and my earliest employees, their kids are in college and they're coming back. So we're getting 3 generations, the grandma, the mom, and the daughter. And, it's pretty awesome to be on a street like Franklin Street, because it does keep you really young. I still think I'm in college or something, being around so many young people is really awesome. And it's fun to, hire a lot of young people and mentor them. And then they come back. And anyway, we've been there for a long time. So I'm trying to think if there's, and the only other thing that was really crazy that happened to me was the day after my oldest daughter graduated from high school, the big, huge tree that was forever in front of my store literally almost fell on me and killed me. So I don't know what, I don't know if you knew that, Missy, but it was May of 2019. And I literally walked up my stairs and somebody started to talk to me, and we heard this huge crash, and it literally crashed right where I was just walking. And then I remember a bunch of people were complaining, how dare the town chop down those trees? And I was like, oh my God, they wouldn't chop it down. And that's why I almost died, because it was clearly dead and they didn't want to take it down. But that's my sort of crazy Franklin Street story, but we've really enjoyed being on Franklin Street all these years. It's really fun to win a national championship, and sadly no Halloween this year, but there's not a better place to be in the US on Halloween, than downtown Chapel Hill. But anyway, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to say hello, but I have to go pick up my son from swim team because he's probably freezing outside.
Thank
Thank you, everybody.
Stephen.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, my name's Stephen Judge. I own SchoolKids Records, and I also have a shop in Raleigh, across from NC State, and we opened in 1974. And like Charles, I worked for SchoolKids. That was the shop I grew up going to as a kid, and then got a job there in 1990 and worked for over a decade, helping the original owner run the shops. And then eventually I left and did some other things in the music business for a number of years, and working in labels and distribution and management. And then as retail got to be, in music retail, everybody knows everything's on everybody's phones now with digital downloads and streaming and everything. So as that monster reared its head in the early 2000s, it became very difficult for music retail stores to survive. So the original owner and I were still very much in touch and good friends, and he had closed the Franklin Street store, the one Missy mentioned earlier, that's now a Bank of America, which still makes me I'll leave that one. I can't go. I have a hard time walking by there. I have to cross the street when I walk by. I can't do it still. I miss that space. That was a great location. But we are now on West Franklin Street. I took over SchoolKids 12 years ago, and left my distribution job and came back to basically save the store because the original owner was ready to get out of it. And we were seeing a huge resurgence of vinyl. And many of you may have heard this because it's been on the news about the resurgence of vinyl that we've seen over the last decade. It's been quite remarkable. It's not something I ever anticipated to blow up like it has. It's been amazing to watch. It's been amazing to watch young kids, high school kids and college kids buy records again, and it's exciting. And so I came back and reopened SchoolKids on Franklin Street and West Franklin Street across the Mediterranean Deli 5 years ago. And that's really, for me, it's very much a dream come true to own a business on Franklin Street. It's very personal to me. I grew up in Rocky Mount, which is where I'm at now in my office. And I grew up in the hometown of Phil Ford. So inevitably, I was 7 years old when he played in the national championship. And he was obviously a huge hero here in this town, and my hero as a sports athlete. And a little side story to that, that I tell people this story all the time because I travel quite a bit. My partner is Irish, so I am actually a dual resident of the Republic of Ireland and spend a lot of my time in Dublin, and as well as my two favorite cities in the world are Dublin, Ireland, and Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So I live the perfect life of getting to split my time between those two places. But so I see through the music business and travel that I've gotten to do through that, and also by living half the time in Ireland, I get asked a lot about what Chapel Hill is like, what North Carolina is like, what's the difference between North Carolina and South Carolina, and all those kind of things, which I have to really explain. And when we get into a town like Chapel Hill, we start talking about college basketball. I generally tell them the story of 1977 when Carolina went to the national title against Marquette. And I was 7 years old and was about as big of a Carolina fan as you could possibly get. And my parents had gone to a party or something, maybe to watch the game or just a cocktail party or something, and left my grandmother with me. And she had said it was time to go to bed and the game was on. And I, of course, argued with her that I was allowed to stay up past my bedtime to watch the game. And we got in a little bit of a spat about it. And somewhere along the way, I guess my mom called or something, or she called where my mom was at and said, no, he can stay up. He's got to watch this. Let's Phil Ford. This is like everything to him. And of course, we lost that game, which was heartbreaking. And I'll never forget this, walking up, I still remember this vividly, walking up the steps to go to bed. My grandmother said, as soon as the game's over, you got to go to bed. And of course, I was crying when we lost. and was going up because it was his senior year. I was heartbroken. It was like the thing, he's going to get it. He's going to win the championship, and it didn't happen. So I'm walking to go up the steps, and my grandmother says to me, "I can't believe you're crying over it's just a game." And I said, "No, it's not." And I've explained people that story overseas, and they look at me kind of strange. And when I explain that story to someone here, someone who's from Chapel Hill, they go, "Yep." They know exactly what I mean. And so I grew up coming to the games here as a kid. I came to Keenan when they came back. I got out of school and came with my friends, and I remember going down Franklin Street and seeing the blue paint everywhere, and all the telephone booths painted blue and the big footprints on 54 coming in. I still vividly remember that. And that was one of the most special moments of my life, to come experience that and, go to football games and go to the Rat or go to Peppers, which I miss dearly, miss both those places very much. And now to be a business owner on the street, and I love game day. Game day is amazing. I love being in the shop on those days. And as the pandemic hit, tapping into what Julie was saying, has obviously been a very, very difficult year. And one of the things that I was working on when the pandemic hit was actually putting a bar in the store. My store in Raleigh serves beer and wine, and we have a bar and we have a stage and bands play, and we try to make events happen, just evolving to 2020 times, and I've always wanted to do that on Franklin Street, but real estate is tough on Franklin Street. And so I haven't been able to make that work space wise, but where the bookshop used to be, which is dear to my heart as well, that space became available, and my landlord loved my idea and allowed me to take over that space. And we knocked out what used to be an old door, like between the two spaces. And I've built a bar in there and painted and decorated. And we were literally in the middle of inspections when the pandemic hit. So everything's still on hold, but I've got the space, I've painted it, decorated, and I've turned the entire wall into a chronological history of the music scene of Chapel Hill, which some of you may know or may not know, that the history of music in Chapel Hill is very, very rich and goes many decades, from Elizabeth Cotton to James Taylor. And today there's many bands like Sylvan Esso and Mandolin Orange, who are doing, and Steep Canyon Rangers, who did a record with Steve Martin, who are all very, very proud Chapel Hillians. And I have traveled a lot, and I come across the awareness in the music industry of Chapel Hill's rich talent in music history is everywhere. I've been in Australia, believe it or not, at a bar at a music trivia night, and had people say to me, "Chapel Hill, that's where Superchunk's from." And you're like, "You know who that is?" And it's amazing. And there's it's really special place. And I felt like nobody's really shown tribute to the music scene here in this town. I mean, the Cat's Cradle is still here. They're in Carborough now, and I grew up going to the Cat's Cradle and still do. Hopefully they get back open soon. We miss them. And they bring a lot of business to me, so we miss them dearly. But no, they're very humble and very subtle about the history there. They don't really wear it out on their sleeve. And when I go all the time one of my favorite things to do is to go to the post office or to go to the bank and walk if I have to take a deposit or something, and walk by Sutton's, because it's such a special place. And we're so lucky to still have, the great history like that. We've lost so many places over the years. And when I see all the history of the people in there, I thought, well, nobody's really doing that for music. And there really is Chapel Hill's very famous for its music scene, very famous for it. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the bar. And hopefully we'll be able to serve and have that back open soon. I know we will. And on game nights and weekend games, it's going to be fabulous. And I'm looking forward to that. But as Julie was saying, it's been tough. And, thank goodness for us for e-commerce. I'm very, very much involved with that. And I'm involved nationally with some in a coalition of independent record stores, of some of the top 50 record stores in the country, and I'm on the board of directors for that. So I hear all over in Ireland and all over the United States the struggles that stores are going through, and obviously a lot of them are going through the same things. And I thank God we have that website, and I've invested all the time and energy that I have into that over the last many years, because that literally has saved us. It definitely is slow in town at the moment. You know, my Raleigh store is certainly doing better. You know, we have some good days, we have some slow days, and you know, but we're hanging in there, and I'm very fortunate because a lot of my friends and colleagues from music venues to bars are not even open. And I, like Julie said, I am worried about some of those businesses making it. So if there's anything you can do to help those businesses, please do. And just like a great example, I just went and bought a Cradle bumper sticker, a mask. I was wearing that today in the shop, t-shirts, a tote bag from them. You know, I do that kind of, you know, and all the time. And people are doing that for us too, buying t-shirts, because every little bit helps, you know, and the stores really need that support. We want Franklin Street to stay special. I've traveled all over the world. I've been lucky. My career has taken me everywhere. Chapel Hill, we all know this, we're biased, but Chapel Hill is one of the most special places in the world. And what makes it unique is downtown and Franklin Street. And it's really evolved and grown. And West Franklin Street is not what it used to be. I'm right, when you showed that map, I'm so proud that I'm right smack dab in the middle of that. It's great. And, you know, we need to, those businesses need help. They're not getting any support and funding that they need to survive. And they're all hanging on as much as they can. And as much as if we can't be there, there's still ways to support those businesses online. And just even just dropping a note, just people saying, you popping in to say, hey, and saying, you guys doing all right means the world, because we're fighting. And I am in a much more fortunate situation than a lot of my colleagues. So we need those businesses to survive. I need them to be open because I need people to come back, because that's how we'll make it. Because we missed the foot traffic, we missed that business for sure. And we're looking forward to coming back, and we'll get it back. You know, a year from now, let's all pray that we're going to be back to where we want everything to be.
Yes. Thank you, Stephen.
Sure.
Awesome. Joe, you have a few questions for, and especially for my my friends that grew up on the street, if they have some input they wanna have.
Right, absolutely. If you'd like to, if you have a question or a story you want to tell, if you want to put it in the chat, and we'll call on you, and you can unmute yourself and share. But I think we already have a couple, like you said, Missy, that I think you said that you had a friend who, was it Thells, I believe, right?
I didn't hear.
The bakery, they own the bakery.
Oh, yes, Cheryl. Yeah. Yes.
Cheryl, if you're there and you want to unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about your time in Chapel Hill, that'd be awesome.
And I have a question for Cheryl, if your mom got to join you.
If my mom got to what?
If your mom is here with us.
Oh, no, my mom just moved to, just as of last week, to assisted living at Carolina Meadows, and
Okay.
they're locked down. Nobody could leave.
Yes, that's right.
But she's 98 years old.
Wow.
And she's as spry as she can be and in amazing shape. So I'm hoping that
Franklin Street
that
care.
side of the genetics sticks with me.
Yes.
I have to say Franklin Street was so incredibly wonderful when I was growing up. And I started working in the bakery when I was 6 years old, and I went through UNC working in the bakery. Except for when I'd go work at the fireside, and my mother would come down and say, we got to have her back. She's the only one that could decorate the cakes. And I'd say, no, don't make me go back there. My brother worked there, my sister worked there. And the work ethic that we learned was amazing. And I know you learned it too, Missy, you and Alex. But it was, my mom was like Mrs. Franklin Street, I think. Everybody adored her, the students. She always hired students, and they would come back year after year. And not the ones that she hired necessarily, but they would come back. But the students that she served, they would come back to see her year after year after year, bring their kids. And I know she misses it, because that was such a wonderful part of her life, was even though work was hard, I remember when and don't take this back, but when Eastgate opened, Mother said, "Oh my God, the world's going to come to an end now. Everybody has to shop local," and now Eastgate is definitely local, but it was the beginning of shopping centers, so it was a little rough. People would go to shopping centers to buy birthday cake, and mother always said, "I don't care how much more it costs. You got to buy your clothes on Franklin Street. We got to buy everything on Franklin Street. We have to keep the street alive." And I was disappointed. I left. I lived in San Francisco for 38 years before coming back. I'm so glad I did. Whoever said you can't come home again was wrong, or they didn't grow up in Chapel Hill, because this is a remarkable town. It's a wonderful place to retire. So at any rate, over the years, I came back to visit quite a bit, and I got used to what was happening. But some people who hadn't been here in many years, it was a real shock. And so we'd lost so many good businesses. And of course, we had so many new wonderful ones too, which I'm glad to meet some of you guys tonight. And but I don't know what else to say except that, and having Charles next door for all those years too. And Charles and my sister were in the same class in high school, Charles' house down there. And it was like we were family. I mean, your brother Alex is my age, Missy's brother, and Bland Simpson, and I mean, they were just, of course, James Taylor was in our class, and we had a wonderful, wonderful childhood here. It was, you couldn't have asked for a better place to raise your children, couldn't ask for a better place to grow up on as a merchant's child than Franklin Street. So I'm glad I'm back, and I'm glad to see you. I'll drop in and see you guys. Now that I know you're missing people coming in. Stephen.
Cheryl, can you remind us of where the bakery was?
Right next to the Florist. Charles House's Florist. We were, and well, there was Robbins next door, but what is that now, Missy?
Franklin Center.
Oh,
that picture where I showed the Pick Theater and part of Franklin Center, and then the next business. Yeah, the next business.
We were across the street from the Varsity Theater. That's where Charles still is right now.
Right, and as it turns out, that building was kind of gerrymandered to take care of both stores. The selling spot for the bakery was a small spot on the left-hand side, and we had a little bit larger space. But in the back, our shop area narrowed down, and the bakery had to have, the donut machines and all the other prep ovens and things like that. So they had the larger space in the back. So it was, and they had the skylights too, which was nice. So, when things got rearranged and so forth, we got all the skylights back. So it was a good relationship, and it was a fun time. It really was a fun time.
I do have to say, you say somebody's here whose family owned the porthole?
Yes, Francis is here. Fran.
Well, Fran. Well, I can't tell you how many times people have told me that they would come to town and they go to porthole just for the rolls. And my dad made the rolls for the porthole. Oh. And when anytime people find that out, it's like, because you can smell it coming down the alley, but it was coming out of the bakery. It was coming out of the back of the bakery, which is the porthole alley. So
that goes in the book of Revelations.
Right.
I never knew that either.
There were a certain kind of roll. We didn't sell them in the bakery.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
Hi.
How you doing? Yeah.
Good. Actually, they did make the rolls in the restaurant as well.
Oh, good.
Because I remember as a child going in there, and we had a big industrial oven, and you're right though, that smell would go all the way down the alley, and it was amazing. And I think I actually have the recipe for the rolls upstairs somewhere.
I wish I had them. Yeah. My dad had all those recipes in his head. I don't know how he did it because he made everything under the sun. And when he died, they died with him.
Yeah,
Pretty
that's
fast.
unfortunate.
Yeah, yeah.
They
Anyway.
said, they used to say that they were actually the Parker rolls, but I'm not sure
Parker House
about that.
rolls. That's what they call them. Parker
Yeah.
House rolls. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, nice to meet everybody. I'm gonna have to sign off in a minute too, but that's my story.
Thank you. That's awesome. And we, you know, I know we're running up on time here, but as long as you still have stories, if you want to unmute yourself and just share or ask any questions of any of our other Missy or any of our business owners that are on with us, just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Missy, it's Annis. It's great to see you after all these years. I'm glad to see so many people. I also, Cheryl, lived in California. I've been in the Bay Area for over 40 years, and now I'm back in Chapel Hill living. So I can't wait to get downtown and just stroll. And it's been a long time. So it's great to kind of jog my memory here. I've forgotten so much. And thank you for mentioning Billy Arthur's. And a lot of people do remember that store. It wasn't downtown, but it was kind of out in the hinterland. And but thanks for mentioning it. It's great to see all of you.
Oh, fun.
Any other stories or questions that you might have before we wrap up?
All good.
Is somebody gonna talk?
I was gonna go. If I look familiar, it's because I'm Joe's twin brother. But my mom also put in the chat, but she got married in Chapel Hill in 1985, and she did the University Florist did mom and dad's flowers for the wedding. And then my personal wedding story was 2 years ago when I got married. My wedding gift from my wife was an Alexander Julian sports coat, which is one of my biggest prized possessions that I own. So for those that don't know, Joe and I we were born and raised in Richmond, Virginia, but mom and dad both went to Carolina. So we made our way down there growing up, and Tar Heel born and bred. And obviously I actually live back up in Richmond now, but Joe lives down in Chapel Hill. So we make the trip all the time. And even for people that grew up for 18 years before we made our way down to Chapel Hill, the time spent in Chapel Hill is a special place. And to say it's just a game, I get the sentiment to echo what was said before. I know why people tell me that, but it's just couldn't be less true. If you're a Tar Heel, it's a family affair. It's so much more than a game. It's a community. And I think a big part of that is game day and Franklin Street and the memories. And some of the best nights of my life have been storming Franklin Street with Joe and other family members. So it's because of people like you guys that have made that the experience, and why it is more than just a game.
Wow.
Not want to sleep on those nights, but doesn't mean we'll ever forget them.
Oh boy. I'm just seeing chat, little comments flash up of so many other businesses that I had forgotten. But I just want to put my own little plug in here that there are 5 more of these, and they're very targeted, which I think is Joe's brilliance. But yeah, there'll be one on restaurants, and I'm sure one of those questions is, where did you go for your first dates? And Taboli was another place. Whims, I saw flash up. The Whistle Stop flashed up. Avi's Hallmark. There have been some great businesses that made memories for us. And I know one of them, Huggins Hardware. Francis, how long was Huggins on Franklin Street? Can you enlighten us? Francis Franzi Harper?
There we go. I'm working on it.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how to do it. Huggins, I think Vic Huggins started Huggins Hardware in the early 40s.
Okay.
And my dad and several other people bought it in the late 60s. And actually, I went to college my first 2 years at North Carolina Wesleyan in Rocky Mount, and they actually took over the store on the day I went off to college. So I'll never forget that. And then my dad died in 1976, and they continued to run Huggins for a few years. But I think by 1980, 82, somewhere in there, it had closed. So it was a wonderful place to be, though. I worked there through my junior and senior year, and during the summers, and when I was back at Carolina, and during the summers at various times. And it was just wonderful being on Franklin Street. It's just a feeling I've never had anywhere else. And then for a number of years, I lived in Atlanta and then San Francisco. A lot of people migrated to San Francisco, didn't they? And then back to Atlanta and Tampa for 11 years. So I didn't spend a lot of time in Chapel Hill until I moved back to Atlanta in the 90s. And it still feels very special when I come home, and it'll always be home. And this pandemic's made it very hard because I haven't been back since New Year's of 2020. So looking forward to being cut loose so I can travel that road.
Yes, we miss you. The thing about Huggins Hardware, I have never been in a store that had everything. You know, sometimes now that question is at the grocery store, did you find everything that you were looking for? And it always makes me giggle because I just want to go, you're not Huggins Hardware. And I used to go in even when we were in high school, you know this, Francis, because that's where I'd get the white butcher block paper to write CHHS, go team.
HS.
You could literally find anything or have any idea, and there, especially your dad was so fun, but they would work with you. It was like its own maker space that we have on campuses now. It was the original maker space. It was great, amazing.
I see from Betty Graybeal, when I was looking at the registrations, Town and Campus came up a lot.
Mhm.
So Betty, do you have memories of Town and Campus you'd want to share? And if not, Missy, if you want to, but I'm interested in hearing about it because I learned about it through just looking at the registrations for this event.
Yeah, I worked there all through high school and then 4 years of college, and we did close during the football game. We were open before the game and then closed, and we all walked over to the stadium and went to the game. And then we had to leave the game early to get back in time for the after rush, which was absolutely crazy. But yeah, Bob and Ann Simpson owned Town and Campus. The men's department was downstairs. The ladies department was upstairs. We sold John Mayer and Villager and Papagallo, all the most popular brands. And I mean, I have nothing but wonderful memories from Town and Campus.
I would agree completely. Somehow because of Town and Campus, I think I had a great run of Villager dresses that matched all my Papagallo shoes. So, and the other thing I was known for was the rickrack. We had a lot of dresses that were trimmed in little rickrack, which I'm sure, Joe, you have no clue what that.
I do.
Right.
But Town and Campus was, again, one of those 7 men's stores right downtown. But Bob and Ann Simpson, they were just a really cool couple. They were really fun. And Anne actually taught my brother in 6th grade. She was a
That's right.
yes.
Yeah. She was our PE teacher too.
Yes. Isn't that amazing? And then the little picture of McGinty's next to it, that was a sports shop.
Right.
So
they also sold records.
Okay.
Stephen would be interested. They sold records in the back of McGinty's sports shop.
Oh, I didn't remember that. Okay. Yeah.
You were so young then, Missy. That was the problem.
That's it. I probably didn't get to go there so much. But I don't want to take the airwaves because I see there are a lot of people in the chat. So
I'm going to wave goodbye. Nice seeing everybody.
Thank you. And yeah, and just to be respectful of everyone's time, I know we could be here all night, and I'd love to be here all night, which is why we're doing this 5 more times. So, but I did just want to thank everyone for being here, and I learned a lot, and it's fun reminiscing. But we hope that you had fun as well, and we're hoping you'll consider supporting these businesses. I'm actually going to drop 2 links into the chat right now. One is a website that we put together that has links to all of the businesses in that district that we talked about. It has all of the shops as well as bars and restaurants and services. And obviously the holidays are coming up, and so we'd love it if you consider supporting these businesses. I know for my family as well as my brother, a gift card to get some new Carolina apparel is sometimes all I need for the holidays. So you can visit their websites on there. If you're local, it'd be awesome if you could come visit with a mask, of course. But if you're not, just remember that you can support all of these businesses online as well with gift cards and just their e-commerce. I really think that the business owners that we have on here, for all of us who are UNC alumni or those of us who just love Chapel Hill, y'all are foundational to what it means to be a Tar Heel as much as going to a basketball game or drinking from the old well. And so we're really happy to have you on here tonight and hope that we can support you. We are going to have 5 more of these events. Our next one will be on December 15th with Scott Maitland from Top of the Hill, and we'll be talking about bars. So I'm sure that will facilitate a fun discussion. And we also have, we're going to do 4 others as well. We'll be doing an arts and music one. We'll be doing one on Black history and Black business in Chapel Hill, one on quick bites and coffee shops, which is just our way of noting places like your lunch spots, your dessert spots, your quick pizza places, that kind of stuff. And then we will also be doing one on restaurants as well. More information will be coming out on those other 4, but the links that I just put in the chat will take you to the bars one if you'd like to register. And again, thank you so much all for being here. It was really fun. Missy, you're awesome. And so is Charles and Julie and Stephen. Thank you so much. It makes me really happy that we get to do stuff like this at the GAA. So thank you for being here.
And my thanks to you, Joe, and every face that I got to see is really awesome.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you. It was a great program.
So fun.
Thank you for doing it. It was lovely.
Thank you.